right, at this point, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Martin Galvin, our National Freedom for All Ireland chairman.
Ladies and gentlemen, a Karja, I want to welcome everybody here to Old Lunny's for tonight's event. All right, what we're doing here tonight, I think, is really important. There are few occasions when you can say that you were part of something historic. The 1992 Presidential Forum is historic. It was historic for Ireland. It was an important step forward, a crucial step forward for peace there. It's important for Irish America because it showed how important our work in the United States can be. And at that forum, a future president named Bill Clinton came up and he promised a visa for Gerry Adams, which opened the door for Gerry Adams to come to the United States, do the work that he did on peace and with the Irish American community. He promised a special envoy, and that person became George Mitchell, without whom there would be no Good Friday Agreement. He promised justice for Joe Doherty, for political deportees, and that case became deferred action, it became justice, became the reason why people like Brian Pearson is sitting here in the front row, and why people like Matt Morrison and Gabe McGahey had their cases resolved in 1997. And we're going to hear from somebody we want the same kind of justice for now, later, MALACHY McALLISTER. But that forum didn't have to happen. In fact, very few people thought it would happen. And it didn't happen in one night or 1 week or 1 year. It happened when I first became involved. I'm sure Ray O'Hanlon will tell you, or Adrian Flannelly, or some of the people who've been in the Irish community, or Larry McAvoy. For many years, there was a standard speech given in Irish events. It was, why don't American presidents pay attention to Ireland the way they do to all other countries? And then they go to Israel or South Africa or whatever other country was, Poland, whatever country was on the front page. And we all felt good about saying that. We left and we couldn't do anything about it because we didn't know how to do anything about it. There was one person who said it had to change. One person who said that the Irish community had to get American presidents involved and was willing to do the work to get us, to show us a way to get it done. That man worked for years. I can remember presidential or candidates forums where almost nobody would turn up. The first one I ever went to, Peter King showed up for the Right to Life party. Nobody else showed up. He came back again and again. He reminded the Irish community that until you make it happen, candidates are not going to come, learn your issues, address your issues, and do something about your issues until you show them they've got to get your votes. And the man who did that over many years, the man who was truly an unsung hero of the Irish community, and I just want to change it so he can be a sung about hero in the Irish community, the real hero behind the Good Friday Agreement, behind the Presidential Forum, and the man who recognized that, again, Ireland needs American presidential attention. What's happened just now, after 3 years, no storm in assembly until yesterday, or until this week, that has to change, that we've got to get back to getting presidential candidates to address these issues. The man who did it then, the man who worked so hard, that hero of the Irish community, a man who wants to do it again for us this year, John Dearie.
With a very worried. Thank you. I asked this with a very, very worried heart. That was such a beautiful. Did anybody record that? Fantastic. What number can I call you tonight at? That was a beautiful introduction. Really, thank you so much, Martin. To think about the fact that on April 26th, relatively short period of time from now, which will be 2 days before the New York State primary here, we are working, I along with Congressman Joe Crowley, a former congressman, and very active attorney, Martin Galvin, Glennon, I'm sorry, working the three of us in terms of putting together the 7th Irish American Presidential Forum. And it's interesting when Martin, and I remember so many people, many in this room, who were so helpful and involved, put the clock back for a moment to 1984. The president was Ronald Reagan, and it was around the early part of his term there that he appointed a special envoy to the state of Israel, much needed and extremely important. And it was a catalyst for many of us in saying the one thing that seems to be missing between the efforts of Great Britain and Ireland to try to move the peace process forward is the friend of both of those countries, and that is the United States. But for so many of those candidates, and I don't think I have to convince anybody here, many of the candidates, including those running for President of the United States, thought that their commitment and interest in things Irish involved a nice shamrock tie on St. Patrick's Day and talking about their aunt who was a Dominican nun. That was about the extent of their interest. And that is what caused us to have the notion of coming up ourselves, and this is very important in the whole concept here, coming up ourselves with what the issues, the Irish American agenda in 1984 and 88 and 92, what were the issues of interest? And that is what we have done this year as we anticipate our 2020, our 7th. But back at that time, the first Irish American Forum was held in the Bronx, as Martin had made reference to, and Vice President Walter Mondale was the first candidate to appear. And we have been working each of these years, having for the last 2 elections, important because the candidates on both sides that are running now for the presidency have very, very little involvement, commitment to, awareness of things that are important to the Irish community. And so we have invited all of them, from President Trump to all of the Democratic candidates. I don't need to tell all of you, with the developments of the debates and other things as we anticipate Iowa in a couple of weeks, the number of candidates obviously will be a lot less than it started on the Democratic side with 20. Maybe there'll be 4, possibly 5 by the time we get to April. And so we have written to all of the candidates, and we have asked them and told them what the issues are that we want them to address. And I'll briefly touch on them. There is a 6-point Irish American agenda: BREXIT, immigration, the appointment of an American special envoy, which we now do not have, future of the Good Friday Agreement, the McGuinness Principles, and the trade between the U.S. and Great Britain. Those are the 6 issues that we have not only advised the candidates, these are the issues we want you to talk about, but we've given background from our perspective as to what each of these positions mean. There will be 6 panelists, 2 of whom are here and 2 of whom Martin has mentioned, that I'm very delighted and honored that they are part of 6 highly prominent Irish American leaders who will be asking each of the candidates one of those 6 questions. And those 2 candidates that are part of the 6 are Ray O'Hanlon, as had been mentioned before, and by the way, who was a panelist in 1992 when President Clinton, then candidate Clinton, made the commitments that Martin had made reference to. And the other panelist is someone that I spent 20 years sitting next to and learning an unbelievable amount of things Irish. every Saturday morning. An incredibly dear friend, and quite remarkable when you think about it, that he has been on Irish radio with every point of view on every imaginable Irish issue for a few weeks. As a matter of fact, this is Adrian Flannelly's 50th year on Irish radio. That's pretty remarkable, Adrian. I can say that over the 20 years, there was never from Adrian anything remote to the beautiful words of you, Martin, tonight, aimed at me. So Adrian, nice to have been there, but pick up some of the words, in the future. Just to mention very briefly, the other 4 people that will be panelists is Debbie McGoldrick, who many of you know is the editor of the Irish Voice, Judge McKay, who is the now national president of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, an international union president of the Transport Workers Union, John Samuelson, and a former Republican congressman from upstate New York, Congressman Jim Walsh. And those are the 6 panelists that will be asking the questions. Going to be held at Fordham University School of Law, beautiful, relatively new school. But the point that I wanted to stress here, if I may, we want to make sure, and we have told the candidates, that 300 of the most informed, knowledgeable, and committed Irish and Irish American leaders are going to be sitting in that audience. That's who they're going to be looking at. The auditorium seats 300 people, which is a very small number. And I just want to mention to each of you tonight, and we have a card here, we have set up an email for people that are interested in attending the forum. It doesn't mean if someone applies necessarily that we're going to be able to get a ticket, but our hope is that all of the prominent, and certainly virtually everyone in this audience tonight, we would like to be seated at the forum. And so I have cards, and as a matter of fact, in the back there, waving is Michael, I think his last name is Dearie, and Mike has the cards. And also, if you're interested, can fill out very quickly, so you don't have to go and make contact with the email. We can fill out the information if any of you are interested now in planning to attend. So that's what it's all about. Getting candidates, educating candidates, making them aware of what our issues are, hearing what they have to say, and then doing the very best we can between April and November, and we'll do a very good job of it, undoubtedly with the help of the Adrians, Rays, and everyone else, of getting the comparative positions of each of the candidates on all of these 6 issues out, so that when we vote, we should vote with an intelligence and understanding of where the candidates stand. The whole notion of he's a nice guy. As I said, he wears a green tie on St. Patrick's Day. Those days are over. What's now is, what's your position? Let's hear it. And I hope many of you will attend the forum. Thank you very, very much.
Sean Thornton and John McManus.